Hey there everyone, Condor K with more review reading. So actually, I need to forward this one with something. I'd like to get right to the review, but I got something important to say. Well, it's not too important. I probably should have had this video out sooner, but there's one small reason that I didn't. I was waiting on another review from, well, I guess Rex, since he reviews everything. So if you're looking at me oddly now, you're probably wondering, what is he talking about? Chapter 11 Elma was not the last chapter of Hello Xenos. I uploaded another one on the 25th as a Christmas present, and I was waiting to see if there'd be a review, but since this is one of the last things that I did in 2016, I kind of want to get this video out, along with the last two Let's Play videos and the reaction video that I have, all out today before 2017, so I can start new there, and also change my channel name all at the same time in unison, so I don't have anything left over. But yeah, it was funny because I didn't know how to tell you. I didn't want to tell you at first because I wanted you to find and be like, wait, there was one more. But yeah, there's 12 chapters. It's done now officially. Hello Xenos actually says complete on it now. Shit, what was I gonna say? The chapter is like the shortest chapter of the story, though, I think. Either that or it's the same length as the first one. So if you want to pause this and go read it, it'll take you, I don't know, 5-10 minutes. I don't know. I really don't know how fast you read. These are short chapters, so it shouldn't take that long. But if you want to go read it, go ahead. Unless you have already and you just didn't review it because you didn't want it, in which case, I'm an idiot. Anyway. We can begin. So, the last thing that I read was actually half of your Definions review, and shortly after I posted that video saying that I don't know why the review didn't come up, can you do something about it? It came up. Like, literally, I was editing the video, I was uploading it, I went to my fanfiction page, and there it was. So, the last thing I read, so to just recap on the review, it starts with you asking, with Rexor888 asking, doesn't a Definion, like their disguise, go away when they get touched? Which they do. I didn't realize that I had written Cruz that should have happened when Cruz separated them, so I rewrote the chapter so he didn't push Aereo away, or at least I rewrote like 2 lines of dialogue. Then yeah, I talked about the whole Cruz being dense thing, and then there was talking about the Cavern Clan and the Definions and what they do in NLA, or what they've done out in Mira, and why it is that the Definions have to use disguise and that Xenos doesn't like it, and so on, so on, so on, so. Okay, so here we go. And then we continue with the Xenos line, which was the last thing that was on the review before it got truncated on Yahoo, which they really don't put through a lot of words, it seems, through to your Yahoo account. Whatever. Or your email. So we'll begin there. Xenos, if only you knew how many few Definions there are in, well, I guess it's not outside the realm of possibility that Aereo and Livia are the only 2 good Definions, just that the 2 we meet in-game. Yeah, I was kind of wondering if any more Definions would start popping up, but then again, I guess the whole point of Definions is that you're not supposed to know they're a Definion. And as far as I'm aware, Aereo and Livia's characters are the only ones that openly show that they're Definions in the post-game. But there are probably other ones. It's just, as I think Aereo says, they just need to find their own way of life now. Which I actually finished out the Reprogram Fortune storyline instead. That took me to fight Livia in the thing. And then it's funny because they give you so many chances to destroy Fortune. Like, seriously, it's like, do you want to blow her up or take her back to NLA with you? It's like, well, I did this whole path specifically to keep her alive, so I might as well keep her alive the whole way. And now she's on top of Blade Tower, freaking out. So that's good. That's a funny outcome to that quest in that direction, as opposed to destroying Fortune in the first place. Let's see. Daw. I'm glad. I like Daw. I'm glad that we get to see a Cruz Krelma moment here, and that he does realize he wasn't thinking about how Elma felt. Though that does bring up the question of how can he be oblivious about Janik's suggestion of him tying the knot later on. So yeah, I actually made that joke in the story. Was it in this one or was it in Scales and Love? There's a chapter where it opens with a Janix coming into the room and yelling, "Yo, Krelma!" And then Cruz and Elma turn around and Cruz is like, "What did you just say?" She's like, "Nothing." It was supposed to be a joke. And it's also a double joke because Krelma is the name of the Cross Elma ship, just in general. At least from what I saw in the Discord, that's what people use to refer to it. Of course, with a C instead at the front. So I just thought it was a funny little stupid thing that I could do. When does Janix tell him to tie the knot? That's in Scales and Love, and that's when, was that chapter 11 too? When because Cruz and Elma meet, and then she's like, I'm gonna go talk to her, and Cruz like, I'll try to talk to her later. And then Cruz ambushes her in the barracks by throwing the cat at her, and then they have a talk, and she's like, as your sister, can I give you some advice? And then she tells him that to marry Elma, and Cruz, his response isn't so much that he's oblivious, it's just that he's like, what? Not like, what do you mean marry her? He means what, as in, that came out of nowhere, like that was the last thing he's expecting her to tell him. And of course, at the end of that conversation, he does say that he'll eventually propose, just when he's ready. And Janix is like, cool, that's all I wanted to hear. So, I don't think he's really too oblivious about that. But, and also another thing, if he was oblivious about it, it was 2 weeks later. Or 3 weeks later, I think, at that point. Because, Scales and Love is 2 weeks after Hello Xenos, and then every chapter of Scales and Love is a day, and that's chapter 11, so that's 11 days later, so... Insanity. Let's see. I guess I don't... Oh yeah, this was about me asking, because I had asked, well, I wonder how people would react to reading this story first, because chronologically... Shit. Alright, I was actually gonna make a timeline of all my stories, as well as the events of the game. Oh, right, but I'm gonna save that for its own video, because it's easier to explain that way, instead of tacking it onto here and making this longer. But, yeah, I have a timeline now, which is cool. Anyway, I was asking, like, what did people think? How would people react to reading this story first? Because, like, on Archive of Our Own, I have the stories listed in order, and it starts with Do I Know Me, and then it goes to Stay Sharp, and then it goes to Janix, and then Hello Xenos, Scales and Love, and then 1 Year On. And that's the order of them chronologically. So, but these two were written in reverse. But I just wonder, if you read this story first, what would you think about Janix? Because I'm just like, because a lot of this is call forwards to Scales and Love. So if you come back here from Scales and Love, I don't think it's that much different. I guess I don't see Janix much differently here, even disregarding what I know of her in Scales and Love. If I'm not mistaken, one of the first things we see her do in that is flirt with Irina, so her hitting on rather attractive women isn't too much of a surprise here. Maybe it's how much into Definians she is that would catch people off guard. Maybe. This was a fun chapter to read. I wasn't expecting some big character development here compared to previous chapters. That was a pretty sweet ending, can't wait to see more, though I have a feeling this fix one coming to a halt shortly. I was saying a halt shortly? A halt shortly. I don't know. I think I was mixing up those two words. Only 3 of the Cavern and Tree clans are separate races left. Yeah. So you thought. No, but seriously, my favorite thing, which I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, because I always avoid doing that in my stories. My favorite thing about writing this, there was actually a version of Definians where a very slight change, where when Cruz goes to talk to Elma, actually, I think, did I keep this in there? I don't remember. She's like, she almost started a fight with them. She's like, oh, really? And now? And he says, I think she's fine now, or something like that. I think originally the line was supposed to be more along the lines of, like, she's definitely fine now. You know, like Cruz implying that she's fine being around all those other very attractive women. But then I wrote that and I'm like, wait, Janix has never told Cruz that she's not straight, I guess is the best way to put it. And so it's like, how would he know? But then the more I thought about it, it's like, I can't say it in this story because I don't see the point to it. And I can't say it in Scales and Love because it's been 2 weeks. I'm pretty sure they know by then if they didn't know now. Then I realized it doesn't fucking matter. Maybe she told them, like, while they were eating after the events of Janix. Or maybe they just found out because she makes it very obvious. And so I guess in that way it's better that they just all know and they all accept it than making any sort of big point out of it. So, and so I did end up changing that line anyway, but I think the same implication's still there, that he's like, yeah, she'll be fine with those ladies over there for a bit. She won't try to kill them anymore, so that's good. Anyway, that was the Definions review. I spent longer on half a review than I should have. Anyway, Chapter 9 is Prone, right? Back up. Prone, yeah? Yeah, okay. Like, I don't know why I always doubt myself. Anyway, so another Rexor888 review here, and it goes... Oh, poor Cruz, having to smell that stank all the way back to NLA. I would have dumped her on HB just for the laughs. I'm like... Yeah, I forgot about that, Mia... Because the chapter opens with Mia and Janix talking. Mia is very, is stinky. Extremely stinky after the events of Mia is missing when you rescue her from the gangling Metropolis. Yeah... I'm pretty sure he complained about it a bit, but he didn't want to complain to his precious little junior blade, so... I don't know, something about Mia feels a bit off. Maybe she's too peppy? Just thinking back to her AM, I just can't see her saying, oh, thank you, Ms. Janix, as opposed to, aw, thanks, Janix. You're right, but at the same time, Mia's extremely peppy. Have you, like, her dialogue is ridiculously hilarious. She's got, like, about chicka bow wow, and then she's, like, singing her own theme song. And then she's like super energetic about everything. She's so happy to be wherever it is she is when you find her at the time. I think she actually reins herself in more for her AM than she is in her previous normal missions. And the reason that I had her say Miss Janix, because I wrote her, I'm like, I don't think she'd be this formal, but it's not really a matter of being formal. It's more of like her take on Janix as opposed to her take on Cruz. Like with Cruz, she calls him Chief, and it's a term of respect and endearment in its own way. For Janix, like, we can assume because we don't come in at the beginning. We don't see the hellos, but we can... I think it's pretty obvious that Janix introduces herself as Corporal Janix, and so maybe in a way, Mia is a little respectful of her in that way, that she was former military, because Mia was never anything like that. Janix has all this much more combat experience than Mia. Janix has more combat experience than Mia, and so Mia sees her as like maybe another possible teacher figure of some sort, that she shows her own respect. I was trying to figure out what to call her. Like I was like, well, if she calls Cruz Chief, what would she call Janix? And so I just came up with Miss Janix off the top of my head. Honestly, I probably should have just had her call her Corporal, I guess, something like that. But that was the reason that line was there. Hey, wait, how is Janix able to accept missions and access the AM terminals without having picked a division? Don't they give you your Blade ID only after you select a division, based on Van Damme's very Russian oversimplification swearing in of Cruz? Yes? But I wanted the chapter to end with the very ominous statement of Janix saying she's joining the Interceptors, because you know what happens when she joins the Interceptors. That's basically it. So, I mean... But here is the other answer, as opposed to the I wanted it to be dramatic. I think, in a way, her old military information still worked on the Blade terminals, because a lot of Blade people are former military. Like, so, does that make any more sense? Probably not, but maybe she was just able to get by and accept some pretty simple missions, but she couldn't go after the heavier stuff. And I'll just say that answer, because you're right, otherwise she shouldn't have been able to take any missions between chapters 5 and 6, I think, is when the day ends and the next one starts. Except there's Zaraboggans, though. Or before Zaraboggans. It's after, because Selk and Rock are the first thing of the next day. So, you know, that's my answer. So it's either A for the drama, or B, her military credentials worked. Or both. No matter how you slice it, the first aliens you ever encounter will always be prone, even before Chapter 3. Since the prologue gives you free reign across Primordia, you can already go to Bedrock Hold, and even there's only prone as xenoforms. I don't think you can get on top of Talon Rock, so no Milsadi, and Marnux don't show up in Primordia until after Chapter 6, I want to say, and it's just Daryl and his higher level lackeys. So, yeah, assuming that the Milsadi will always spawn on top of Talon Rock, yeah, and then of course we have Nahum, who only appears at the post game, and can you leave Primordia in the prologue? Like, has anyone tried that? Because I mean, or when you approach the exits, does like Elma stop you and be like, "We're going the wrong way" or something? Like, I wouldn't be too surprised if that was actually a thing that happens, considering everything about the opening of the game. But that is pretty interesting that you can't run into anything other than prone. But I mean, at the same time, it kind of like guides you along. Like they tell you to go to NLA, but that doesn't mean you have to. And then for chapter 2, I think it's spent entirely in NLA. Oh no, you go out to fight Vonkamp, the pursuer, at one point. And then chapter 3 is when you meet the prone. So are there really Marnuks? Marnuks only pop in after chapter 6? Well, I mean, you do say you want to say, so you don't know if you're right. I'm just trying to think. Do you know that cave? Like, there's that really big bridge in Primordia that takes you to a small cave. What's in that cave? It involves I think a curator or a prospector, a female blade, and a Manon that she meets, who she becomes friends with after initially believing that they're aliens who will probe you or something like that, and it takes you to that cave to go rescue her or something like that. And next to that cave is a pool of poison, and there's a tyrant there and 2 other guys. Are those prone or Marnuk? I'm just curious. I think they're just prone. I'm just asking because I don't know. I never really thought about it. The last thing I did when I started the game is explore Primordia in any sort of meaningful capacity until after chapter 3, because it's really hard to get around early on when you're so weak. But someone actually tried to jump up to Talon Rock. They couldn't make it. Let's see. I don't think they can even make it up there with their skull. Elma pushed the floozy button. Shouldn't have done that. Yeah, that was actually fun dialogue to write too, where Elma accidentally implies something and Janix is like, huh? I love that kind of stuff. Just innuendos are fun to mess with. I always imagine that Thea went back up to the ship during the day. Shame you can only see her dance at night. The eyes have it. Yeah, I bring up eyes a lot. I mean, whether or not it's actually easy to tell what someone's thinking by looking at their eyes, if you're good at it, I imagine that there are people who experience certain things and can pick up on it. I mean, like being Nagi and being able to see the difficulties that Janix is having adjusting when they talk in chapter 11. Or be a Thea who just realizes that when Janix brings up dancing or talks about it, that it's just very clear that she's really into it. Not like fighting in LA is legal unless under certain circumstances. I would have loved to fight Gizong in front of Blade Tower. Yeah, when I got that part of the quest, I really thought we would fight in NLA, but then he directs you to like somewhere out in Primordia or somewhere out in the sticks, and it's like, really? I don't know. It would have been fun to do it, but who knows? There's all those times that Yelv's picking fights around the city, so. It always struck me as odd how well Slavity has grasped the English language compared to the other prone, even in the Cavern Clan. It's kind of refreshing in the manner of speaking. Does she? I never really noticed. Because prone, they have like a caveman speak, I guess is the best way you can describe it, the way they talk. And seeing their design, it's no surprise that that's what they went with. I didn't really think too much about writing Slavity in any specific way. I just kind of wrote Slavity because I wanted to write Slavity. Good choices for prone representatives, covering opposite sides of Janix's characters, but still having common ground. I don't think Naza Tenpazi would have made as good a foil to Slavity as Thea did, while that one rather demure prone woman / potential bride would have been too much of a foil, and Thea's dancing really does go well with Janix's. Now that I know there's still another chapter or so beyond the next one, I can't wait to see how this all wraps up. Until then, I guess I'll be looking forward to some Rothian cuisine. Yep, I ended that chapter with pretty hard implications as to who it is they'll be meeting next. So, we will go on to that one. But yeah, the prone chapter was really fun to write, and I had a hard time deciding what prone she'd talk to because there's so many. I feel like I've said this before. Did I not record a video for this? Maybe it was just in my head as rehearsal. But, I was like, should she talk to the chief? Should she talk to so-and-so? I was never gonna talk to Naza Tenpazi, simply because Naza Tenpazi is in the residential district where the Great Tree is. It became super obvious when I thought of Thea because Thea dances, so it's perfect. And I realized later that, and honestly, out of all the Cavern Clan, there's only 2 that are named, Trigo and Slavity. And I definitely think that Slavity is probably the only choice, and also a great choice, also having her own characteristics that kind of blend with Janix.